muchachos and muchachas. Good to see you again. Welcome back to A Cult of Misfits. I'm Matt Owens. Um, if you want to check out the latest episodes of my podcast, you can check them out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. Basically, anywhere you listen to podcasts is where you can find my sweet, soothing voice. So if you want to hear the latest episode, check it out there. I love talking about the nature of reality and consciousness and the Great Awakening and the Anunnaki and ancient aliens and just all the fun stuff. So if any of those things are of interest to you, if you get the tingles just hearing the word Anunnaki, like I do, then feel free to check out my podcast, A Cult of Misfits. Today, I want to talk about hacking reality. So awesome. And I also want to get into talking a little bit about Satan and Lucifer. It's going to be a good one, guys. I often talk about, becoming the creator of our own reality and, the power of our mind and manifestation and things along those lines. Because when you really dive into the ancient knowledge and what all of, the ancient wisdom said and many of the world philosophies and world religions going back, there's this talk of everything being of the mind, insinuating, if not just flat out saying, that our entire reality is created by our mind. Now, you can take that to be literal or figurative, of course, but or maybe a mix of both, right? But I've started dabbling in that concept and started playing around with it in my own life by hacking my reality and hacking my mind. In other words, learning to reprogram my mind and see what happens when I do these things. Because it's one thing to hear a spiritual teacher or a guide or a guru or whatever you want to call it, saying these things like, "Oh, our mind is so powerful," and it's like, yeah, but like, what am I supposed to do with that information? So I start applying it in my own life and see if there's any truth behind it. And spoiler alert, the mind is quite powerful, I'm discovering in my own life. And that's what I want to dive into a little bit. It's about reprogramming how you think about things, right? Because so often in my life, before I sort of started this path that I'm on, the spiritual awakening that I'm on, I realized that I was just subconsciously, unconsciously, reacting to things without giving them any thought. I would just immediately get angry when some guy pulled in front of me, or if somebody said something that triggered me, I would go off the handle. And so it was just about learning to practice with baby steps and learning to reprogram those behaviors and those responses um, to great success, right? And I'm not perfect by any means, but these things that I tried to reprogram in my life, fears specifically is what I really focused in on. Once I focus in on that thing and concentrate on reprogramming it and actively stepping towards the goal of reprogramming it and reframing how I think or react to things, it worked. It started working. So I'm like putting notes in my field log going, day 476. Today I trained the mind to do this again and great results. I didn't respond angrily like I usually do. So stuff like that. But I think about the power of the mind, and I often will correct my own kids, or I was just hanging out with my young nieces, and anytime anybody around me ever says I can't do something, fill in the blank, I just politely smile and say, "You can do anything." Right? Because I had to tell myself that first. I had to get that through my own thick head first, because the programming is that I was a worthless piece of garbage. That I can't do that. I can never do that. There's a long list of reasons why I can't. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good looking enough. Nobody likes me enough. Blah, 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 blah. Right? All these stories that I told myself. And so I threw those in the trash. Eventually, it took time. Threw those all in the trash, and eventually I wrote a new script for myself, telling myself that I'm amazing, that I'm awesome, that I can do anything. And I asked the universe to throw challenges my way because I'm a sick bastard like that. And I like the challenge of overcoming these fears, overcoming these challenges, because I know it makes me a better person and my soul just loves every minute of it. So um, I ask for these opportunities to practice these things, to practice training my mind, right? And it turns out the universe will give me lots of opportunities to practice my road rage or my anger issues or whatever thing I want to deal with. I realize that this is a benevolent system, a benevolent, guys, this is gonna be rough. Benevolent universe. Not saying that again. Hopefully, um, a universe that is always wanting what's in my favor for my highest good, right? And so I realized that this goes with the placebo effect, that our minds just sort of control how we perceive things. And so I realized that the more that I dwell on things, for example, the more that I dwell on my money problems, I don't have enough money. How am I going to get enough money? I might lose this money. When is the next money coming in? Like it's always about money, and there's fear behind that, right? And so what I tried doing as an experiment was I stopped coming at it from a place of lack, a place of poverty, right? Because my mind is constantly obsessed with I am poor, I am poor, I am poor, I am poor, and the universe and its great generosity will give you more of whatever you are concentrating on all the time. So if I'm constantly focusing on the fact that I'm so poor, don't have enough money, then the universe, all the universe reads is the energy behind it. It doesn't hear the words that you're forming with your mouth. It doesn't speak English or Spanish per se, but it reads the energy behind what you're saying in your human words. The universe receives the energy of poverty. And so the universe is like, wow, he's really thinking about poverty a lot. I'm going to give him more of that because he obviously wants more of it. That's why he's thinking about it some more. And then I will dive deeper into poverty. Or it's the same thing with people who have hypochondria, right? And I'm not here to shame them or wag my finger or anything. It's just an example. Because on that hypochondriac spectrum, old versions of myself were like this, where I'm constantly scared I'm going to get sick, I'm going to get the virus, I'm going to get COVID, or I'm going to get the flu, or I'm going to get, laryngitis, or whatever the hell it is. It's like, oh, I got to stay away from me, stay away from me, stay back. You know, I'm not going to come over to your house because I don't want to get sick. My mind is constantly afraid. If I hear that somebody was sick at the party I was at, now I'm like, oh, great, now I'm going to get it. Oh, that's it. Now I'm going to get sick, right? And so I'm constant hypochondriacs and old versions of myself even were constantly thinking about like how scared I am of getting sick, but all the universe hears is virus, 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 right? And so then of course I get sick and I'm like, gosh, dang it. I knew this would happen. And the universe is like, yeah, because you were thinking about it nonstop. So it did happen. Surprise, you manifested it, right? I talk about the word manifestation, but it's that our imagination creates these thoughts, and these thoughts often produce words, but our thoughts are what are creating our reality, according to the ancients, according to Matt Owens. Because I've started working with it and playing with it enough in my own life where I'm like, there's actually really something to this. But I had to do it for myself. I couldn't just listen to some spiritual Yahoo telling me about it. I'm like, okay, cool, cool, cool. But like, I'm gonna take this out for a test run and see how it runs. Um, and so I found that when I stopped being constantly afraid of getting sick, for instance, um, I found that I was getting sick a lot less often. I don't want to say almost. I mean, it's like almost never. And when I do get sick, it's extremely mild because I threw that old script out. And my new script is I am healthy. I have a strong and robust immune system. I have a protective layer around me that protects me from all sickness and disease. Things along these lines, right? And I start saying it enough that I start believing it. That takes time. You just got to keep doing it. And sometimes the old script will try to pop back into your mind. Get out of here. Bye. And just continuing to repeat these things to myself. I am strong. I do not get sick. And then when I do happen to catch a virus, it's extremely mild. Sometimes I don't even notice it's there. Right? For example, I was just hanging out with some family, and one of the members had COVID, and another one maybe had strep throat, and it was a hot mess situation. And they were like, "Well, I don't know, they're sick. I don't know if you want to hang out." And I was like, "I don't mind. I don't get sick. I'm not worried about it. I'm literally not worrying about it. I don't think about it. I don't dwell upon it. I don't ponder it. I'm not like, well, maybe this is the one time. Maybe. Nope. I walk in there boldly and confidently. Nothing can hurt me. I don't get sick. Then my mind starts to believe it. It starts to sink in. We're very programmable as human beings. So I learned to hack the programming, right? Like becoming the spiritual programmer, the spiritual hacker, hacking my own mind. Telling yourself there. I went through a long period in my 20s where I didn't have a romantic partner. And I got lonely and I was like, well, I'll never find anybody. And I'm meant to be alone the rest of my life. And, just woe is me. For years and years and years, that was my script. And then I started flipping the script, saying, you know what? The right person's going to come along when it's meant to be. I'm going to bump into them, when it's meant to happen. I am attracting the love of my life. All of these things. And guess what happened when I started doing that? I met my wife. Yes, I know we got divorced, but it started out as a love story. Ended up in divorce, but that's not the point. Don't focus on the back end. Look at the front end, guys. Uh, we had two children, two beautiful, amazing children out of the deal, and so everything happened at the right time, as it always does, right? So the universe will give you what you focus on the most. And if you focus on all the misery in your life, then I promise you'll get more of it. That's just a guarantee. I know people in my life, people in my family, people I've worked with that are just always complaining about stuff. My life sucks. Listen to what happened to me last week. Can you believe that my neighbor did this? My stupid fucking boss. Can you believe that they made me on and on and on? Long list of victimhood, long list of my life sucks, long list of all the bad things that happen because all they focus on is the bad things, right? And like attracts like. You'll find that back in the day, I feel like I was shades of that when I was working in restaurants. I worked in restaurants for a long time, and there was often, depending on the restaurant and the vibe of the crew, there's often just a lot of bitching and moaning. Can you believe the idiot at table 20 asked me to do that? And can you believe these idiots always come in? Just a real negative attitude, and it feeds off of each other, right? The negativity and the gossiping and the judgment of others, and it just flows real naturally, especially when you're around other people who are also in that vibration. So it's very difficult to break free from that and step out of that. I'm not insinuating it's easy. It's absolutely not. It's a challenge, but I've done it. That's why I'm telling you about it, because I'm trying to say you can do it too. Right? If I can do it, you can do it. That's what I'm getting at here. I don't have these conversations about enlightenment and changing your mind and reprogramming and all this stuff to brag or to say, look at all the things I've worked on, because I know that the ego likes to latch onto that sort of thing and say, well, see, he did it, but you could never do that. You're not good enough to do this thing. You could never reprogram your mind. That's because that voice in your head, which I call Hal doesn't want you to start thinking for yourself. Hal wants you to stay in that negative programming. That's his wheelhouse. That's how he keeps himself in charge and you unable to think for yourself and react and respond to things unconsciously. I'm speaking for myself, but perhaps for you too. I was unconscious. Hal was at the wheel. My fears were at the wheel. This reptilian part of my brain was at the wheel. And I was helpless because I didn't realize that I could take the wheel back. I didn't realize that I could be in charge of my own mind. That had never occurred to me. Nobody had ever told me that. But to be honest with you, I wasn't in a place that I could have received that most of my adult life, right? Until it just sort of clicked in 2020. But before that, if I had heard some spiritual person saying, "Oh, just use the power of your mind to create your own reality. You can hack your mind like a spiritual programmer," I'd be like, "This guy's fucking crazy. You're out of your mind, bro." But now I have a different perspective, and I realize that there's that voice in our heads. I think the whole reason one of the reasons we're here in this 3D realm, the material world that we found ourselves in, um, is it's meant to be challenging, right? I think that on the other side in the great beyond, or heaven, or the highest realm, the fifth dimension, whatever you want to call it, where there's no suffering. It's peace and love, baby, 24/7. Divine light, all of the things, all the good stuff. I think we're here for a reason, and it's for the purpose of our soul. We're meant to experience this. We're meant to experience suffering. Sorry to tell you, but that's part of the game. That's part of the experience. I think this is all an illusory world, which I talk about. I think this whole place is not what we think it is, not quote unquote real, but it is what it is, right? I'll work with what I'm given, but I don't think this is real. But I think that the purpose of how our ego, our mind, the voice in our head that's constantly dragging us down, because we let it drag us down. Um, it's called the reptilian part of our mind for a reason. I think that it has to do with the reptilian people. Okay, guys, like my mind instantly goes to Satan and Lucifer, and the snake in the Garden of Eden. Just follow me on this trail, guys, as my mind wanders to the Garden of Eden, because it's all connected. It all has to do with Satan. The word Satan, once I started looking into this character, and realizing what, I like to look into what the original words meant in the original Greek, or the original Hebrew, or Aramaic, or whatever it is the original thing supposedly came from, and get down to those root words, because so many times it gets lost over time, or just kind of gets lumped into a category of other similar type words, and then it just all becomes this one thing, rather than realizing that perhaps there are different components to it, like Satan, Lucifer, devil. All of these things kind of get lumped into one big evil thing. But I always got questions. I always like to dig a little bit deeper, and so um, I wonder if the voice in my head, Hal, is really Satan, Lucifer, because Satan means opponent, is what the root word means. It means opponent, like the adversary, like in a court proceeding. Perhaps it's like the other guys, the other side. It doesn't mean good, bad, evil. It just means the opponent. And so I wonder if that opponent is a component of our brains for a reason, to give us that pushback, to give us that resistance, in order to help us learn and grow and see from new perspectives, and to change programming, and to do those sorts of things. Because if there was no pushback, if there was no voice in my head, then it would just be silent Zen 24/7, right? Wouldn't that be nice? And you get little tastes of it and touches of it when you meditate, for example, where you have that time where your mind is just shut off, and you just connect with the all that is. Um, and so I think that when we advance to the next realm, heaven or whatever, that is what we experience. It's just that pure bliss. We don't have that voice yakking in our head all the time, telling us we're not good enough, or too fat, or nobody loves us, or whatever, right? I think that disappears. I think Hal disappears. I think the opponent disappears. Satan disappears. And so I think the point of us being here is not to have that pure bliss, although wouldn't that be great? But I think the opponent is here for a reason. And I have to tell you, Hal, the opponent, Satan, whatever label you want to use, is a really good adversary. I have to say, he's the Joker to my Batman. Like, he's really good at what he does. Real tricky SOB. And I love when I catch him in his tricks. I'm like, holy shit, that was a good one, dude. You really got me riled up about that. You really convinced me that that's something I should be scared of. And I've started to realize, especially my walk today, is what kind of prompted this whole line of thinking, is that I'm thankful for that adversary. I'm thankful for that, because it makes me sharper, right? If you're in a sword fight just by yourself, there's nothing to defeat. There's no victory in that. There's no what's the point? Right? So I enjoy the adversarial nature of my mind, um, because I believe it sharpens me. I used to hate Hal, the devil, wanted to eradicate that evil, get it out of my head, get it out of my mind, and I've learned that the higher path or perspective is to embrace and love that part of myself, which is to say broadly, to embrace and love the darkness in myself. You can call it the devil, you can call it Hal, you can call it the shadow, whatever, but learning to love and embrace it as a part of myself, to alchemize it, to incorporate it into my essence, rather than trying to peel it off or burn it or hate on it or not love it. Um, and then that's been a real game changer for me. Um, in the Garden of Eden, I talk about Gnostic traditions and what they believe. The Gnostics were just kind of a big umbrella term for just sort of the early Christian beliefs around the year 100 AD. It was just sort of this mishmash of a bunch of different books and gospels and a lot of interesting stuff that was left out of the Bible. But anyway, they have a real interesting twist. I also talked about this in the last episode, if you're interested, the last episode of my podcast about Yahweh, the Hebrew God, the one true God, or whatever you want to call him. That um, the Gnostics also believe that he was the devil, masquerading as a god, and was not a good character. And so this kind of goes with the theme of the Gnostic early Christian belief of the Garden of Eden. It's not the story that you find in the Bible. It's quite different. It sort of flips on its head and suggests that um, God doesn't want man to gain this knowledge when you eat from the tree of knowledge or of good and evil or whatever, which also, quick side note, goes in line with many, many, many other ancient tales that talk about the gods not wanting the humans to get too much knowledge. That's where you get a flood situation that wipes everybody out. That's where you get a Tower of Babel situation where the tower comes tumbling down. The gods don't like the humans to get too much knowledge. So the Gnostics believe that this God, Yahweh, was telling us to keep us down, to keep his boot on us, to dumb us down and not want us to get this divine knowledge. And according to the Gnostics, they believe that the snake was not the bad guy, but the snake came into the garden to give them this knowledge, this secret divine knowledge that they were not allowed to have, according to Yahweh, God, which also goes in line with many other ancient tales. Prometheus from the Greek tales is one of many examples. Maui, these gods or demigods that came down from the heavens and gave humans knowledge that they weren't supposed to have, fire that they weren't supposed to have, knowledge of agriculture and of magic and of these esoteric wisdom. Um, they snuck in and they were often punished for it. The god or the gods were often very upset at the snake or the god that snuck in and gave the humans that knowledge. They were always punished. No, no, no. Can't get the humans too smart. So I find that interesting because if we're going to follow that analogy that the adversary, the Satan is how that voice in our minds. The voice in our minds doesn't want us to think for ourselves. Doesn't want us to expand. It wants to keep us in this little bubble where Satan can tell us what to think and what not to think, what to be scared of, to keep us in a trap of fear, right? And it's about breaking free from that trap, breaking free from the Garden of Eden, breaking free from our minds, breaking free from these metaphoric bubbles that someone has put us in, or we put ourselves in, if it's our own mind, right? Breaking free from it, realizing that we can break free from it. Old versions of myself wouldn't have even understood what this conversation is about. But it's a real large pill to swallow to come to the realization that I can free myself from my own cage, right? I can rewrite the script. Nobody ever told me that before. I'm not saying that as a victim. Like, nobody ever told me that. How come I didn't know that? But I discovered it when I discovered it. And it's a game changer. So I'm just like sharing my notes with you, letting you peek at my notes. It's because in many ways for me, I consider it like a cheat code, right? Like, wait, you can reprogram this shit? What are you talking about? And then trying it out for yourself. I mean, please do not take my word for it. Don't take my word for it. Take it out for a spin. Try it out. See if you can reprogram your own mind. And I talk about manifesting. See if you can manifest something. Try it out. It's like a magic trick. And I have tried it out and with great success. I've been shown enough times that there's a mechanism within the universe that aligns with our thoughts, and it's crazy. And I don't fully understand it, and I don't think I ever will in this lifetime, perhaps. But I enjoy playing with reality and seeing what I can do and seeing if the ancients were right about certain things or if they were wrong. It'd be one thing if I heard a lot of good things about manifestation, and then I tried it out and it never worked. I'd be like, this is horseshit. I'm not doing that again. That's nonsense. But it did work, so I tried it again, and then it worked again, and I tried it again. And it's not to say it's just like, for those of you that have dabbled in it, I think you know what I'm talking about. For those of you that haven't, let me explain that it's more than just think about a pony and you'll get a new pony. Sometimes, honestly, that has happened where, for example, I thought about I want some firewood, and then I got a phone call 30 minutes later from somebody offering me firewood. So like it does kind of work like that sometimes. But often I found that there needs to be a give and take of energy. There needs to be a sacrifice of some sort. You know, I never really understood the old Bible stories about sacrifice, or not just the Bible stories, but a lot of the ancients. You know, you sacrifice to the gods. You sacrifice a goat. You sacrifice one of your children, which is pretty rough, but hey, that's Yahweh for you. You know, but sacrifice something in order to, you know. Sometimes it was done in reverence for the god as a thankful gratefulness, you know, perhaps to the god of agriculture. Thank you for the great bounty this year, or the sun god. Thank you for growing our crops, or whatever. um, but also, there's a lot of stories which are perhaps metaphors, perhaps literal, who knows, right? But the gods often will, there's this theme of the gods asking you for something in return for a miracle, for example, or something that you want from the gods, and they are like, fine, but you have to give us something in return. And I found that in my own life. They're often, not that the gods need me to slaughter a goat, because I'm just not going to do it, guys. But where do you get goat these days? I'm just not on the goat scene, so I'm not into the goat sacrifices. But I'm not suggesting you do either. But you know, to each their own. Uh, um, but I've often found that when it comes to manifesting things in my life, that spirit will often ask me to do something, and it's often for my own good, for my soul, for myself, right? It's often like, okay, just a simple example, just a real simple one is like, I want to manifest losing 20 pounds. Okay, well, it doesn't just happen at the snap of a finger, you know, unless you get liposuction or something, right? I guess the snap of the doctor's finger. But there's going to be a sacrifice. The sacrifice is going to be perhaps no more fast food, or the sacrifice will be, you know, I need to start working out for an hour every day. That's rough. That's a sacrifice of my time, a sacrifice of my energy, my physical energy, right? So there's often a sacrifice that needs to come. And so I found that when I ask the universe for these things in my life, like even less tangible things like firewood, but things like I want to manifest more peace and calm in my life. Well, often the sacrifice is going to be, well, I'm going to have to work at that. I'm going to have to practice that. I'm going to have to meditate some more. I'm going to have to learn, you know, listen to what other people that are farther along in the path than me. What did they do? Like, you know, it takes work, mental, spiritual, physical work. It doesn't matter, but those are all sacrifices. These are the types of sacrifices that I'm talking about. Um, and so it's not just like you know, you twinkle your nose and it magically appears before you. Although I do believe that that's possible. I believe that anything is possible, and that maybe further down the line, maybe humanity in even 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years or whatever gain the ability to do that. I'm not necessarily saying it's possible in this lifetime, but I believe anything's possible. So I believe that we're magical beings. I believe that we are. I don't think we fully understand what we are, to be honest with you. I speak as if I have all the answers, and I certainly don't. And I don't trust anybody that tells me that they do have the answers. But um, I think that there's divinity within us. Perhaps we are divinity itself, living in a 3D avatar. These are my belief systems, but you know, they shift. But I'm always pondering it. But I just think there's more to who we are. Even just saying the words "I'm divinity in 3D form," I still that's hard to wrap your mind around. It's like the concept of like infinity. It's like, yeah, okay, I get it, but like, when does it end? Or, the concept of God just always existing, or, time being an illusion, which, science and philosophy and metaphysics and all that stuff, it all points towards that this whole shebang is an illusion, including time. But I just think that we are greater than we realize. And I think that part of this game is discovering who we truly are. As I started letting go of these masks that I was constantly wearing around other people to fit in with society, or fit in with my family, or fit in with the church, or fit in with whoever I was trying to fit in with, learning to drop all those masks, become my true authentic self, discover what I like and don't like. What do I want with my life? What do I not want with my life? Why and why not? Digging deeper. Why do I respond this way? How can I love myself more? Man, I really love myself so much. Just like getting deeper and deeper and deeper into me and who I am and what that actually means. And as I do that and peel these layers away, and oftentimes they're burned away from the universe through a painful experience or trial or tribulation, right? But these layers get burned off from us in such a painful but uh, beautiful way in the end, as we emerge from this cocooning process. The caterpillar often turns to complete goo and mush and is brought down to nothing, like the phoenix, going down into ashes, and then is reborn again as this beautiful butterfly or phoenix born anew. So oftentimes, even though these things are challenging in my life, I ultimately thank them and write it out, because I know that a beautiful butterfly is on the way, guys. I am a pretty, pretty butterfly. I don't know about you, but you may think you're a moth, but no, no, no. Aim bigger. You're a monarch. You're a beautiful monarch as well. And I have dug deeper and learned to love what is within. And I hated what was within for so long. I hated myself. I hated who I was. I wasn't confident in myself. And that's all changed. And it's an ever going process, just diving deeper and deeper into who I am. And I absolutely love it. More and more every day. So with that, I will leave you. I love you. End transmission.